time, and sooner we will get into the advanced topics.
All right.
I know that you already know what a database is, so we are storing all of our information there.
Yeah.
It's a storage space, and we are usually in every organization, every university, whatever today the working firms are, they are storing all of their data, all of their data in the databases, whether it is phone contacts, library records, or school enrollments, whatever it is. Why we are using MySQL? Because it is free and popular, and almost every organization is using MySQL as of now. It works on all of the operating models, whether it is Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and usually website and applications use MySQL most probably. Now, even in your SailPoint IIQ, you must have noticed we have installed MySQL Server in our personal machines to run
Yeah.
SailPoint as well. Even though SailPoint can run on multiple database languages, but for the free source and all, we have used MySQL. So yeah, from there we can directly start working with SailPoint as well after knowing the database queries. So tables
Okay.
are same like to your spreadsheets, your Excel spreadsheets, where there are rows, there are columns, and each row has a unique ID, which we call it as primary key, a unique identifier which differentiates one set of data from the other. Like every student will be having their own unique college ID, and in organization, every user has their own employee ID. So that is the unique ID in spreadsheets. And in every database, there should be one unique ID.
Okay.
So rows are basically representing one student and columns are representing all of the details. All of the columns like first name, last name, email, full name, active, all of those.
Yeah.
Now relational databases comes into picture. This is a relation database model, RDB we say it. It's a type of database that stores data in tables. So whenever data is being stored in the form of tables, we call it as relational databases. Very beginner level term, like in low level interviews, they will ask, but at your level they will not ask this, but you should know. So we will split info into tables like students, courses, enrollments, all of these are different name of tables. Student is a different tables which will be storing all of student data. Table will be courses will be a different table which will be storing all of the courses related data and enrollments, how many students enrolled and all. So that's why we are storing all of these data into the tables form. So these are three different tables. There will be one database, and inside those database there will be multiple tables. So we link these tables using keys. Just the way I told you, like there will be one unique ID. For example, in students, there will be student ID that will be unique. In courses, there will be course ID that will be unique. So in similar way, we follow this. So how MySQL actually answers your question is you basically send a request. Similarly, you send a request using URL to APIs to website. You ask a request that I want to get this information. So you send a request, you submit a button, and simultaneously the appropriate third party server understand your request and delivers your answer. So in same way, MySQL, you first send a request in the form of query. You filter out the data that you want. For example, select star from users. You are saying MySQL that I want the information of all of the users in users table. So you send a request. Then MySQL will plan the best route that is available. How you will get that data. So MySQL will plan accordingly. And whatever the query, the filter you have written, it will return the matching rows. So they are comparing your query with the data available in the database. And that's how they are returning your question. So that's the basic understanding how MySQL works.
Okay.
There are many real life examples. These are just the very basics ones. For example, books, members, and borrows in a library. So there are books table where all of the books are listed, members table where all of the library members are listed, and then borrows table in which all of the users who have taken books from the library are listed there. So you can question and filter out the query like who borrowed what. Who are the users in borrows table which have borrowed what books and due dates when they are planning to return. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the very basic examples, and that's how you need to filter it out. We will start with the this labs in the next class. So we will create our. I think we have already installed MySQL in your system. There is MySQL Workbench, right? You can just confirm me that.
I'm sorry, repeat that question one more time. What did you say?
In your personal system, there is MySQL installed, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be there because we are using for SailPoint that only. I just want to confirm when you press the uh, Windows Windows button
Mm-hmm.
and search for MySQL Workbench. Is it there?
Yeah, 8.0 CE.
Great. So we don't have to install anything. We will directly start with the hands-on in the next classes.
Okay.
So this one we will do that. So this was the first slide that I wanted to share, very basic. Now I'm moving to the second one.
All right.
Visible, right?
Yeah.
SQL basics and data types. Once you will start learning SQL, you will understand that it is very simple actually. It's just like hawks that I don't know this, but once we will start working on it, it's very easy.
Okay.
So again, what is SQL? It's a language to talk to the database, simultaneous to any other language, for example, Java, Python. So these are all language models. This one is used for creating tables, add data, and ask questions. Once uh, in SQL, basically you are creating your own database, then you are inserting tables. Inside those tables, you are adding the data. And once you have inserted those data, whenever you need those data, you will ask questions. You will ask the filters. So that's how it works.
Go back to the previous slide.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
Oh, okay. So every SQL expert should know these four principles, these four useful groups. First one is DDL. So DDL basically means data definition language.
Mm-hmm.
What is it basically does is whenever you are creating your own structure in SQL, for example, creation of any data, creation of any table database, means you are altering your data, altering your uh, table data, your columns, or drop means when you are deleting that table. So create, alter, and drop, all of these signatures come into the data definition language.
Create a table,
So we
alter a
have,
table, and delete a table. Drop and delete mean the same thing.
yeah, we will define in detail later. As of now, yeah, both means same, like deleting the data or dropping the data, whatever it is, according to the requirement.
Okay.
And whenever you are inserting data, update data, or delete, so that comes into a DML.
Yeah.
One second. One second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. I will take that call later. So where was I? Yeah, DML. Data manipulation language. So as the name suggests, manipulation. You are manipulating your own inserted data. So table is created. Now you want to. अरे यार, Yeah, I'm back. So DTL structure was when you were creating your own table. You were creating table, altering table, and dropping table. DML is manipulation language, which
Hmm.
basically means you are inserting your data and you are updating your inserted data. And there is data and you are deleting that data.
Hmm.
So you need to understand that all of these are part of SQL only, just we have created a subset. Subset means that we have taken a part of the SQL language and named it something else. Whenever you're doing anything with the structure, structure means like you are creating your own table. Table is a, you can reference it as a box in which you are inserting your data. So that is a structure. Table is a structure. And whenever you're doing anything with table, for example, creation of table, altering your table, or dropping table. Drop will be used for table only. It will not be used for the your data. But after the table is being created, now you need to insert some data as well. The table itself is nothing. There should be some data. So whenever you are doing the data processing, it's under manipulation language. Now inside this structure, you are inserting data, and if there is already data present and you want to update anything, that is the updation of data. And if you want to remove any data, for example, any user ID you want to delete, uh, that's when you use the delete.
So
And
these are basically
DQL is
the categories of commands. The first one is basically related to creating like the table itself, right? Creating a table, altering a table, and or deleting a table. The
hmm,
second type of queries are basically related to specifically the data within those tables, like inserting another, I don't know, row or something, updating or a specific record, maybe updating a record or deleting a specific record. We use that DML type of queries, right?
correct,
Okay, DML
correct.
stands for what? Data manipulation language, you said?
DML stands for data manipulation language. Correct.
And DDL is data.
DDL stands for data definition language. You are defining the data. That is the
Mm,
structure.
yeah.
Manipulation, you are manipulating the data.
Okay.
DQL is query language,
Data
data query
querying
language.
language. Yeah.
Only one command is there, select. Whenever you are querying the data, you need to ask the query from SQL that give me this, give me that. You are selecting that data.
Yeah.
So that comes under DQL. And then there is DCL/TCL, which basically means control language. Control language means, I think you must have seen that you need to grant some permissions, grant access to someone else. You
Hmm.
grant some other user access to, so that he can also do the manipulation of the data as well. Otherwise, without that grants and permissions, he will not be able to do that. So all of those grant and revoke commands that comes under
Okay.
your control language.
Like you're giving someone permission to query a particular database or access to a database,
Correct,
those type of
correct,
things. Okay, what
correct.
does DCL and TCL stand for?
DCL is data control language. TCL is transaction control language. So you can remember this is like this data control language. So it is coming under data. So it is having permissions. Permissions
Hmm.
means grant and revoke. Making sense?
Yeah.
TCL comes under transactions. Whenever you are doing any transaction. So what does transaction firstly means? If you ever go to the ATM,
Hmm.
so you first insert your card, you insert your PIN, you provide the number, how much amount of money you want to debit. So once all of these things are done, the amount of the money amount will not be directly debited from your account until or unless you receive that money in your hand, correct?
Hmm.
So that will only occur once the transaction is completed. If the transaction is not completed, it will not uh, say it as a completed transaction and it will come under failure. So
Hmm.
that's how this TCL also works. that is basically transactions. Whenever you have done any manipulation of data, still it is under the drafting page. It will not automatically get committed. You have to do the transaction, and that transaction is commit. You have to write your own command as commit, and
Mm-hmm.
after running that commit command, that data will get inserted or will successfully transacted in your database. So that's how
Mm-hmm.
these transactional control language commands are there. So there are multiple transactional commands: commit, rollback, save point,
Mm-hmm.
and set transaction. So yeah, we will do all of these. So that's how you can remember that there are permissions which also come under control language, and there are transactions as well which also come under control language. So that's how this
Mm-hmm.
DCL and TCL different names are there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can read this one and you can ask me if anything.
Um, no, I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
good. DCL is basically
Okay.
like the last one, basically it's all about giving permissions to
Hmm.
people, to have access to the database of some type. I don't know,
Correct.
read
Hmm.
permission or maybe write permission, those kind of things.
Correct. Yeah.
And then the transactions, I didn't quite understand the transactions. Like, how does that relate to this? Like again,
So
like,
transactions are basically in your table. Whenever you're performing any query. For example, even if you're inserting data, you write your command, you wrote that I want to insert Rafi and Kanish into my database, into my table.
yeah,
So you perform that query, okay?
yeah.
But it is still not committed. What I mean by committed, that the transaction is not completed. Whatever you have done, it has basically saved into a draft phase. It will still not be visible to outside.
Once you commit,
So
once you do what? Once you do what? Once you have manipulated some data, is that what you're saying?
yeah, once you have manipulated any data, once you have inserted data, updated data, you have to run one more command that is called commit. So after running this insert command, the second command you will run is commit, so that it will successfully gets integrated with your database. It will get updated in database, and now it will be there. So it is not in the draft state, it is basically saved.
Okay, but
It is
this
a
is
part
this
of
this
your table now.
this is only related to actually making changes to the data, not just viewing it, correct?
Correct.
Like
Actually
when I
changing. Correct.
okay, okay, makes sense. I don't think I've ever done any changes to the database. I've only run
Yeah.
queries. Like I have familiarity with Google BigQuery.
See, what you do is you only query languages. You only select data, select star
Mm.
from this, select star from that, select that user
Yeah,
which which has this parameter. You are not manipulating data. So
right.
that's why transaction is not there. You're only fetching the data.
Mm-hmm.
You're only using DQL. But if you're a database expert, you have to change the database as well. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're working on that, DML work comes into the picture. DDL comes into the picture. You're creating, inserting data. And whenever you're working with those, you also have to do the transaction and you
Yeah.
need to commit that data. And if anything goes wrong, then you have to use the command rollback. So it will take your database back to the previous picture when it was successfully running. So that's what transactions are: commit
Wow.
and rollback.
Right, like system restore. Got
So
it.
why you haven't worked on this? Because you're only selecting the data. You're only fetching.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, let's move ahead. Now,
sure.
when you're working with data, You need to know about data types as well, even though you have learned about this in other languages as well, Java and all. But in database, it is very specific. If you are working with any numbers, you need to provide that data type starting with int. Int means integer. So
Mm-hmm.
suppose you're inserting something data like uh, employee ID. So that is an integer. So you need to provide that particular data type as well with that variable. Now in Excel sheet, you can see employee ID is there, but in database, it is stored as int space ID. That means integer space ID. And when you're working with money, so it can go to the decimals. That's why you need to provide decimal as a data type. So decimal space money. That's how it will be stored. So that database will understand that this value can go up to variables like dot, decimals, dot 005, something like that. So you have to mention it when you are creating your data, your table. So all of these integers you need to mention once you are creating your own table. So that after that, it will automatically consider all of those values as the data type that you have provided. Whenever there is name,
So
you
why,
need
okay,
to
decimal
provide
is
as,
represented with a comma? Oh, so decimal is what you're
no,
noting that data type to be in, but
it's
you're,
correct. Similar to integer.
but it's being, the example that you're showing is it's being represented with a comma?
This this bracket 10 comma 2 means that it will take decimals up to two levels. Dot zero zero. That's it.
Oh, okay, okay.
So if there will be anything more than that, it will not take that. So you can customize it accordingly, how till how much level you want to get the decimals.
Wait. What does a 10 mean then?
Power of 10. Dot. Whenever you are talking with decimals, it's always considered as the base 10. So base will be 10. After base 10, you're you're basically dividing the 2 with 10. That's how like in the backend something like that is happening. It's totally mathematical, and that's how you represent it in the outside. 10 comma 2.
Okay. Like this is basically saying consider up to the second place after the decimal. Like 12.36. We're gonna go up to that level, right?
Okay, let's understand it in the very basic language. Whenever I'm talking about 10 and 2, 2 we understand that it is basically your digits after the decimal dot zero zero. But 10 we are
Right.
talking about till what uh, absolute number that we will be considering. So 10 digit number, till 10 digit number we will be saving our data. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7, 8, 9
okay.
dot zero zero.
Gotcha.
That's how we are.
Right.
So anything above than that, we will not be considering. It will give us the data error. So we are initializing our integer that till what values we are storing the data.
Right.
Similarly
Up to
for
the
varchar, yeah, in text as well, we use variable character, varchar we call it. In other words, you can call it a string.
yeah.
In database, whenever you're initializing a string, you need to write varchar until how alphabets or characters you want to store. That is 100. Like 100 characters will be stored with this varchar, and names cannot be more than 100 characters. So we are basically taking 100 characters. If it's a sentence, for example, description of an application, description of an employee, whatever it is, so we use text variable, text data type that is for long notes. So instead of varchar is for names or small things like first name, last name, text is used for description and something like comment section. So for those we use text. And
Okay.
yeah, dates are there for but whatever it is, last working day, birthdays. So for that data type is available date. And if you want to store with date and time as well, for that date time, data type is there. And you know about
Okay.
boolean true false. Simultaneously in data types, it is called as tiny int. In other words, boolean, only two values, one or zero, which means true or false. So these are the most used data types in MySQL, and the you will be using the data types inside these values only, not more than that. You will be using integers, decimals, varchar text, date, datetime, and tiny int, which is Boolean.
Right.
So you can read it once and we can move it.
Yeah, I got the idea.
Great. This is, yeah. Now this is again again an important topic. Whenever you are working with your data, these four keys or values are there. We call it as constraints. So
Hmm.
many people will ask you to use this constraint, use this that constraint. So what those basically means is primary key, not null, unique, or foreign key. As much as
Hmm.
they self-explain themselves, they are very easy. Like primary key, unique row identity. So let me share whiteboard as well so that it will be easier for you. One second.
Okay.
Screen sharing again. This one is very important. You must know this concept. Whiteboard is visible, right?
Yeah.
Hmm. So, suppose there is a table users. So, columns are first name, last name, user ID, full name, email. So, let's consider this one only. Now, there might be a chance that there comes a user with same first name, last name, and full name. Correct? There might be multiple Kanish Pahal. The only way to distinguish both of them will be either user ID or email ID. Correct? It's making sense till now?
Well, you said
Yeah.
user ID or email ID. Yes. Out of these four options that you gave me, then yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah. Right. Correct.
The same way we worked in SailPoint as well. There was CSV file and we need to provide one identity attribute. So in same way, in database, it is called as primary key.
The
So
unique
whenever you're
attribute
creating,
about that particular row.
correct,
What is unique in that row? That is not that row only that row has no other. It does not share that with any other row. So, for example, like if we
correct.
have a bunch of names and addresses and stuff of people, we can just say that the
Hmm,
primary key might be like the number that we put next to each one. So, like the first person is we're calling it customer ID
hmm,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like the unique ID or the primary key for each
correct.
row of records.
So there is a one thing that you should know that in one table, there should be only one primary key. You
Right.
cannot initialize multiple. columns as primary key. There should be only one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was our users table.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose there is one more table as users role. Just giving you one random example. So in our database, we have two data tables. One was users and one was users role. So in users, let it be the data was first name Kanish, last name Behel, user ID was let it be 001, and email was b dot at the rate g dot com, let it be. This was the data which was available in the users table. Now you can see there is no information regarding role. Whereas in users role, there is user ID, full name, and user role ID. And the data is something like 001. So Ganesh, full name I didn't write there, but let's write here. And role IDs, let it be 98. This is your role. Full name was here. Now we both know that this data is basically belonging to the same person, correct?
Mm-hmm.
See, this data is also related to Kanish. This data is also related to Kanish. The only difference is it was his primary attributes like first name, last name, email, and this is related to his job, like what role he performs in the organization.
Okay.
So both data is same, but we have stored it in different databases due to better response or whatever the reason is. We have created two different tables. But when I want to query out all of the data of Kanish, like I need data from users table as well, and I need data from users role table as well, because either way the data is of Kanish only. It's
Mm-hmm.
just stored in different tables. So
Yeah.
how I can relate first table data with the other table data? That is the question. The only thing that we can relate between both of them is
Is the
employee
primary
ID
key.
or user
Right.
ID. So it
Yeah.
was a primary key in here, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And this was the primary table. This is a secondary table or whatever table it is. But here, if you want to relate the first table with the second one, we use a constant name as foreign key. So foreign key is basically nothing but a primary key only, but stored as a foreign key in another table.
Yeah.
So this is a primary key in our primary table and a foreign key in the second table. So
Got it.
whenever you want to query out the data from both of the tables, you will be using this primary foreign relation. So this is primary in both of the tables, but how to relate first data from second, that will be a foreign key. We'll do
Okay.
the example as well, but this is the best understanding in way that how you will query that data.
Yeah, I understand the concept. So my question to you now is, can we create a legend, let's just say, right? A key,
Hmm.
a map, what am I trying to say? Can we create a map key and we code that the primary key of 001 in the primary table maps out
Hmm.
to the foreign key of 00 or 01, let's just say. If
Hmm.
001 is equal to 01. So anytime you see zero
Hmm.
zero one in primary table, and anytime
Hmm.
that will equal to 01 in any kind of foreign tables, foreign keys.
Correct.
Can we
Hmm.
make that kind of mapping? Or does the primary key
Yeah.
need to stay consistent across all tables?
See, primary key needs to be consistent over all the tables. You cannot like directly equals to something like
I
that.
cannot map
Once
it.
you are creating your, no, you cannot map it. Once you have initialized a foreign key in any table, So that value should always be same as the primary key in the primary table. So it's a one go initialization. That's where you will initialize your primary key and foreign key. Once those are initialized, then it will be similar for all over the future. And that's how they will correlate basically. That's how you're correlating data from one table to another table. So
Okay.
manually you cannot correlate. It will be like this only, structural level correlation.
But even if you define a correlation that's predefined before you even make the table, right? You're taking the
Hmm.
primary keys. Let's just say, it's create a hypothetical scenario. Let's just say your primary
Hmm.
key is, we have a bunch of people and their first name, last name, email, and their rating in chess, let's just say, right?
Hmm.
And we
Okay.
have noted
Hmm.
down the primary key to be players 1, 2, 3,
Hmm.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., etc. The numbers 1 to infinity, okay, are our
Okay.
unique identifiers.
Hmm.
Now, let's just say in the secondary table, in the relational
Hmm.
database, let's just say, I'm creating a foreign
Hmm.
key, okay? Instead of making
Okay.
that foreign key to
Hmm.
be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, can I make that relationship to be 1 primary key equals A in the foreign key, and 2 equals
No,
B, 3 equals C, 4 equals D, E, etc.?
no, it's not like that.
It has to stay as a 1 in the foreign key
Yeah,
as well.
basically, whenever you're initializing any foreign key, you can consider it as the same table as only. Like the data will be similar to the first data. So that's why, how you can consider this like same is the data, whatever is present in the primary key, same data, the primary key should be same in the second table as well.
That
So
particular
it's a
set of
structure. Yeah,
whatever row or column you determine to be the primary key, that row or
hmm,
column must also exist in the secondary table, is what you're saying.
correct, correct. Otherwise, it will give you an exception.
Okay, got it.
This is only created for that purpose only. So that's why that manipulation or that customization is not there.
Okay.
So that's now come for your foreign key, which is basically primary in another
Got
table.
it.
Now, not null, the way it means that you are initializing whenever you're creating your table. Suppose you wrote it as not null user ID. Well, it is primary. Oh, also, there is one more thing. You cannot create empty data. Primary key should never be null, never empty. Similar for foreign key as well.
Mm.
If you initialize any data as primary, it should be considering some data. Otherwise, it will give you exception as well. Similar to foreign key, it should also never be empty. If you
Which
are
one? Which one?
initializing any column as
Which
foreign
one should never
key,
be empty?
your primary key and foreign key, like the column. Here the column is user ID. Here
Yeah.
also the column is user ID. So this user ID should never be empty.
Right, the column heading, you mean?
Once you have initialized it, yeah. Column heading not the data. Whenever I'm putting data, for example, empty comma Kanishmahal dot 98. This is an error because
Mm-hmm.
you didn't provide the data for user ID. So the data should always be there. Otherwise, it's an exception.
Okay.
And coming to the topic not null, as the name suggests, whenever you're providing not null before any integer, any value, for example, not null full name. Now, this basically means that whenever you will be inserting your data, you cannot empty full name as well. Now, full name should be there. If you if you should not have provided not null before full name, you can provide empty full name data, but once you have provided constraint not null, now the data should be there. So now if you do not provide the full name of Kanish, it will also again give you an error. So that's the power of not null. You need to
Meaning
provide
like,
data. So you
so you can put a not null clause into like a any column and say there cannot be any null data
correct.
in there.
Yeah, this is basically making your data clean. You want to make sure that whatever columns I'm putting and these columns need data. So you're putting not null before that. So that
Yeah.
whenever some data analyst or data developer is inserting data into your
Yeah.
table, so he will know that this data should be there. Otherwise, data will not get inserted. Because either way, you will be needing first name, last name of any user. So that should be not null only.
Got it. Okay.
Now, primary key is unique identifier, which is distinguishing your one user data from the another. But there is one more constraint named as unique, which means that it is not a primary key, but the data of that column should be unique. Why it should be unique? Because, for example, let's take an example of email. Now, even though email is not a unique identifier in our system, but still email should be unique for every user, right? So that's why whenever you are initializing your email column, you should write it as unique email. So it will make sure that whenever you're inserting data of any user regarding to email, if there is a duplicate value, it will give you an exception. So it will make sure that your data of email is unique for every row. So
Mhm.
that's where you use unique constraint. And it can be used for other aspects as well. I'm just taking example of email. So
Mhm.
any column other than the primary key, which should be unique. For that, you use the unique constraint. So these are all the constants which are there in MySQL and you should know it by heart.
Yeah, you can put that in unique clause to a column and say that every record must have a unique value for that column.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's go back to our PPT. Visible? Beginners mistakes you avoid. For example, it is not mandatory to put a primary key, but it should be there. So you need to make sure whenever you are creating any table, you need to initialize one primary key so that in future it is easier to update and delete for all of the data which is available in the table. And if there is money related, it should be float. Like float basically means decimals. Dot zero zero should be there. Decimals should be handled so that rounding problems will not be there whenever you're handling with the money in databases.
Wait, hold on. 1 second. The beginner mistakes to avoid.
Okay.
No primary key. What is arrow? What is the arrow pointing? What does that mean?
I mean, whenever you are creating a table, you should make sure that primary key is there. Primary key is there. You can create a table without primary key as well. So that's why whenever you're creating a table, you should make sure that you're initializing a primary key as well. So usually beginners don't initialize the primary key. That's the mistake to avoid.
Okay.
And whenever you're dealing with money, it should be in decimal or float, which basically means the integer decimals dot zero zero data should also be there, so that rounding problems will not occur. And whenever you're
What does that? What does
initializing your
float
column,
exactly mean?
float is also like decimal. Float is basically the data after the integer dot zero zero. It will take more indexes like dot zero 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 zero. Decimal will only take two digits after dot. So float is for more decimals.
More zeros. Okay.
So
More places
so
after
the
the
same
decimal.
thing, just till what level you want to handle your data. So decimal float both are same.
Okay.
And you should make sure that the columns that you are providing that should not be too wide. Too wide by means is Like you should not name your columns as beginners underscore mistakes underscore two underscore avoid. It should be very easy, like beginners mistake, something like that column name. If it will be too wide, too long, then the indexing will be at very slower rate. So to make our
What
data
is
optimize
indexing? What indexing? What does that mean?
indexing means
Like,
whenever
oh,
you are fetching the data from the database. It takes
mm-hmm,
some time, right? One
mm-hmm,
millisecond, 2 millisecond. If the columns will be very large or the data, this column name will be very large,
mm-hmm.
then the indexing will take time. It will have to go through all of the characters, like very developer language. So indexing basically means till in what time you get the result. So if you're getting the result in very low time, for example, 1 millisecond, 2 millisecond, it is fine. But it's taking 5 to 10 milliseconds, then you're indexing. The data is not handled or maintained correctly. So you need to optimize your data. So that's where indexing comes into the picture, that you have
Okay.
maintained your data in correct way.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's a recap. You should use the good data types, which means you should use the data types which are required, and constraints should be there with your data types, whether it is not null, unique, primary, foreign, and the data should be clean and reliable data so that you can easily fetch the data whenever you require that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the first class for our MySQL.
Got it. Okay, great.
So were you able to understand correctly
Yeah,
the
I
very
got the
basics?
idea. Yeah.
Great. So yeah, I will make sure that we will work accordingly to our roadmap, certificate that we are going to approach. So yeah, I will make sure that we are aligned with it. And
Okay,
next time we'll
excellent.
start with some hands-on on SQL as well.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, man.
Okay then,
All right. Talk to you tomorrow, or maybe, yeah, tomorrow or Friday for
definitely.
sure. Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
definitely. Let me know. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Bye.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.